Welcome everybody, it is me, that one guy from the one place at that one time, Jaguar110, and welcome to part 1 of Season 14, Hockey Imperialism, with this one being the State Draft 2.0. If you remember a while ago, earlier this year, we did do a state draft for all 32 NHL teams and put them in randomized states and provinces. Well, we're doing that again, but with all 96 teams from the NHL, AHL, and ECHL. So we're going to go ahead and see which 32 teams from all three leagues will be picked and where they will go. So with that, we're going to get right into this to get our first team. Here we are with our first spin to choose a team, and the first ones will be the Toronto Marlies. Alright, let's go and figure out where Toronto will be going. It'll be Missouri. There we go. The Toronto Marlies, first off the block, now in Missouri instead of Toronto territory up in Canada. So with that, we're going to go ahead and spin for our next 31 teams and throw them in to see what this season's map will look like. Alright, we got 95 teams to go, but it's actually only 31. Next up are the Springfield Thunderbirds. And the Springfield Thunderbirds will be going to Prince Edward Island. And I know that the map looks a little bit blurry right now because, the Thunderbirds are down in a very, very small province of Canada. It will be updated properly. This is just to show the map progress without having to basically export every single map and having 32 different individual maps being only updated once per time. But with that, Springfield is now at Prince Edward Island. Let's go ahead and get a spin for our next team. Alright, another spin for our next team up. It's going to be the Newfoundland Growlers. And the Newfoundland Growlers will be going to Maine. Newfoundland is now in Maine. Now we have another team on the map. Let's go ahead and get our next spin on that. Here we go for another team. And next up for us are the Charlotte Checkers. Charlotte will be going to Nevada. And there we are. We have the Charlotte Checkers now all the way in Nevada. Let's go ahead and get our next team up. Alright, our next team up will be the Wichita Thunder. And the Wichita Thunder will be going to Alaska. And with that, Wichita takes a large amount of land already. So with that, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the next team. Alright, get another spin for our next team, which will be the Calgary Wranglers. And the Wranglers will be going to Michigan. And there we have it. Calgary Wranglers are now in Michigan. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get to our next team. Next up in our wheel of teams, we have the Utah Grizzlies. And the Utah Grizzlies will be going to Colorado. And there we have it. The Utah Grizzlies are now a state over in Colorado. Now with that, let's go to the wheel to see who's next. Alright, another team spin going, and we will have the Coachella Valley Firebirds. And the Firebirds will be going to New Mexico. And now we have Coachella, New Mexico. Still a pretty hot place for them to be, so not much has changed for environment. Alright, let's go get our next team. Next up for a team, we will have the Calgary Flames. And the Flames will be going to South Carolina. And there we have it. An actual NHL team finally made it to the map, being the Flames down now in South Carolina. Alright, let's go get our next spin. Next up from our wheel of teams will be the Atlanta Thrashers. And the Thrashers will be going to North Carolina. Well, now we have basically a team from every portion of the leagues that we've had, because the Thrashers have now made it now on top of the Calgary Flames. So good for them. Alright, let's go get our next spin. Alright, we get in another spin for a team, which will be the Dallas Stars. And the Stars will be heading to Pennsylvania. And now we have Dallas all the way in Pennsylvania. It's a much smaller territory for them now this time, but they're happy to be in this one. Alright, let's go get our next spin. Getting down to some teams. Next up for us to use are the Chicago Wolves. And the Wolves will be heading to Iowa. Alright, the Wolves are in Iowa now. Getting some of the US states filled up here. Let's go get our next team. Alright, we have a couple more teams. Well, I mean a lot actually. But next up are the Maine Mariners. And the Mariners will be heading to Ontario. Nope, Oregon. Wheel faked me out again. And there we have it. Maine on the other side of the country. Now in Oregon. All right, let's go get our next team. All right, another spin for a team. Next up for us will be the Abbotsford Canucks. And the AHL Canucks will be heading to Florida. There you have it. Abbotsford is now all the way down in the south area, getting ready to take on whatever comes their way down in Florida. All right, let's go get our next team. All right, our next team up will be the Hartford Wolfpack. And the Wolfpack will be going to Rhode Island. Now, obviously, you can't really tell because of how I have it set up at the moment. But yes, the Hartford Wolfpack are in Rhode Island. Let's go ahead and get our next wheel spin for our team. All right, we get another spin going for a team, which will be the Edmonton Oilers. And Edmonton will be heading to Delaware. Again, so you can't really see it, but yes, Edmonton is all the way down in Delaware now. All right, let's go get our next spin. All right, we're getting our spin in. Next team up for us are the Laval Rocket. And the Laval Rocket will be heading to Nebraska. And now Laval has shrunken down a lot because now they are in Nebraska. All right, let's go get our next team. Here we go for another one. Next up, we're going to be taking the Trois-Rivières Lions. And the Lions will be heading to New York. And there's Trois-Rivières all the way in New York now. A much smaller territory for them as well. Let's go get our next team. Here we go with another team. Next up for us will be the Reading Royals. And Reading will be heading to California. There we go. The Royals are all the way down in California, basically taking up basically an identity of the Kings now, basically. But with that, let's go ahead and get our next team. All right, our next team will be the Wheeling Nailers, and the Nailers will be heading to Arizona. And there we go. The Nailers are now in Arizona, a much bigger territory than what they're used to. Let's go get our next team now. We're inching down on teams to go for a league. Next up for us are the New York Islanders. And the New York Islanders will be heading to Yukon. And there we go. The Islanders are now all the way up in Yukon. A lot of territories are probably going to be taken up that we'll never really see taken up in a normal Imperialism video. Showing that both Alaska and now Yukon are taking up some teams. Let's go ahead and get our next team now. We're inching closer to finishing up a whole league. Next up for us are the Bakersfield Condors. And the Condors will be heading to Wisconsin. And now the Condors are in Wisconsin. Looking like they have their own state now for once. Alright, let's go get our next team. Getting real close with this one. And we're going to be taking the Norfolk Admirals. Norfolk will be heading to Nunavut. Oh man. And there goes Norfolk getting a lot of territories here. And it's one territory, but a lot of land in that territory. Alright, let's go get our next team. A couple more teams left for us to take. Next up for us are the Vancouver Canucks. Alright, Vancouver, what state or province are you taking? Minnesota. And there you have it. Vancouver now in the States. So let's go ahead and get our next team now. Alright, our next team up will be the New York Rangers. And the Rangers will be heading to Virginia. And there we have it. The Rangers are all the way down now in Virginia. So let's go ahead and get our next team to see who's next. Alright, for our next team, we will be taking the Chicago Blackhawks. And the Blackhawks will be taking up residence in Utah. And there we have it. Chicago now in Utah. This area right here is getting stacked with some teams. Let's go get our next one. A couple more teams for us to use. Next up for us are the Philadelphia Flyers. And the Flyers will be heading to Wyoming. And there we have it. Philadelphia now in Wyoming. There's a lot of teams in this section of the United States. It's getting a little packed here. Alright, let us head on over to get our next team. Inch down closer. Next up for us are the Bridgeport Islanders. And Bridgeport will be going to Idaho. And now Bridgeport is a part of this section here in the United States, taking up Idaho. Alright, let's keep continuing on. Just got 4 more teams left for us to use. Next up for us are the Iowa Wild. And the Iowa Wild will be heading to Georgia. And there we have it. The Iowa Wild are in Georgia, having it to where every team is getting closer to connecting to basically every team in some way, shape, or form. So let's go ahead and get our next 3 teams. Counting down a bit closer now, we're going to be taking the Worcester Whalers. And the Railers will be going to Northwest Territories. And there we have it. Basically all of North Canada has a team now, with the Worcester Whalers taking up the Northwest Territories. So let us go ahead and get our next 2 teams. Alright, next up for ours will be the Savannah Ghost Pirates. And the Savannah Ghost Pirates will be taking up New Hampshire. And now Savannah is in New Hampshire, getting close now to having all of the teams for one league. Let's go get that last one. And our last team that we will be getting to make up a 32-team league will be the Minnesota North Stars. And our final team will be taking the territory of Tennessee. And there we have it. All 32 of our made-up league, the Ipley League, I should say, for at least now until next season. But with that, Minnesota North Stars are in Tennessee, and so with that, we'll have our finalized map coming up right now. And here we are with our fully updated map to actually appease the visuals and not be pixelated for 32 teams from the NHL, NHL Archives, the AHL, and the ECHL being picked randomized and picked random territories for where they're supposed to go. So, to recap a little bit here so that everyone can actually see the teams, just in case they wanted to skip ahead for some reason. Wichita Thunder are now in Alaska. The New York Islanders are in Yukon. The Worcester Whalers are now in the Northwest Territories. The Norfolk Admirals are now in Nunavut. The Springfield Thunderbirds are in Prince Edward Island. The Newfoundland Growlers are now in Maine. The Savannah Ghost Pirates are in New Hampshire. The Hartford Wolfpack are in Rhode Island. The Trois Rivières Lions are in New York. The Dallas Stars are in Pennsylvania. The Edmonton Oilers are in Delaware. The New York Rangers are in Virginia. The Atlanta Thrashers are in North Carolina. The Calgary Flames are in South Carolina. The Iowa Wild are in Georgia. The Abbotsford Canucks are in Florida. The Minnesota North Stars are in Tennessee. The Toronto Marlies are in Missouri. The Calgary Wranglers are in Michigan. The Bakersfield Condors are in Wisconsin. The Vancouver Canucks are in Minnesota. The Chicago Wolves are in Iowa. The Laval Rocket are in Nebraska. The Philadelphia Flyers are in Wyoming. The Bridgeport Islanders are in Idaho. The Maine Mariners are in Oregon. The Reading Royals are in California. The Charlotte Checkers are in Nevada. The Chicago Blackhawks are in Utah. The Utah Grizzlies are in Colorado. The Coachella Valley Firebirds are in New Mexico. And finally, the Wheeling Nailers are in Arizona. And there we have it. We have 32 teams in 32 territories. This will be our Season 14 of Hockey Imperialism, which will release next week, June 25th at 11 a.m. Mountain Time, just like every other video is. So with that, thank you all for watching the introduction for Season 14, and I will see you all when this season begins.